Hey y'all, it's my review for the Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 13 Reunion Part 3. Y'all know I've been enjoying this reunion so far. This one was highly anticipated because everybody is on stage now, like all the stuff about to come out. And then Peacock announced last week, after the success of Vanderpump Rules, we got an uncensored version on Peacock. So that's why it's taking me a little bit longer to review it, because I waited till Wednesday so I can see the uncensored one as my first viewing. Now, it wasn't really that much cussing, you know? So, I don't know, like hopefully down the line, starting with this, like I hope the rest of the Housewives franchises are all uncensored on Peacock, because that would create a lot of traction on their streaming platform. But anyway, all the lady spouses are on stage, and Frank, and that's where we start the episode. So Andy starts greeting all the men of the cast, and I'm not sure if this was like an editing mistake or Andy just forgot, but he definitely did not greet Rachel's husband. And I always forget Rachel's husband's name, so I probably wouldn't be surprised if Andy forgot to greet him. But go back and look, like Andy greeted everybody but Rachel's husband. And then following afterward, like when he started asking the questions, like that's when he acknowledged him about, I think, getting lipo, but he didn't greet him. Yeah, Andy's just getting all the fluff questions out so far. So then Louie gets a question I'm sure everyone wanted answered when he was telling Joe that he wears his dad's pajamas at night to make his nieces feel comfortable. Look, the most shocking part of that scene is Joe Gorga not doing anything, just perplexed. And I think he was so confused, he didn't know how to react. So Louie says he didn't exactly wear Joe's father's pajamas, like, you know, just fresh out the hamper or in his dressing room. It was just unopened packets of pajamas that he would wear. It's still creepy and strange he would say that, because the average person would take that as, oh no, you're going to his dad's closet and putting on clothes that he's worn before, that's been on his body, and then you're saying it's to help Teresa's daughters feel comfortable. Like, that's so weird. The looks of everyone on the cast as Louie's trying to explain this. Like, even on his side of the couch, like, everyone's like, they know it's weird, but they're not saying anything. Louie then tries to tie this explanation into a nice little bow and tell Joe that I was really just trying to get closer to you as a family. Because your sister, we didn't want this. We didn't want this. Joe says very calmly that I really want to believe you, but every time I do, you screw me. And I'm sure he's alluding to their business deal and Louie just being an overall shady person. And y'all know I don't really see it for Joe Gorga. Go back to my past reviews, but they really did welcome him with open arms. Joe says he remembers the time when him and Teresa actually were getting along. It was consistent, especially when she just got out of prison. She was more humble. And he asked her, Teresa, didn't I call you every night when we talk? And then Teresa says, yeah, because we were filming. He's like, Teresa, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, like when I was single, you would never invited me out or whatever. You wouldn't do anything. Look, at this point, it's just his word against hers. We can't tell who's lying in the situation. But in this argument, I believe Joe, because they actually were getting along for a while, and we saw it on camera. Now, unless they were just doing it for the cameras, then yeah, I mean, who can tell? But on the show, they really were getting along. And here we go with the split screen, 6 minutes into the reunion. So there's Joe and Melissa and then Louie and Teresa on one side. They could have just kept the split screen the entire reunion, because that's all they focused on. They didn't get on any of the other husbands. Anywho, Teresa tells Melissa, shut the fuck up. She's talking to her brother. So now they're going back and forth. This is fight 1 of 17 between these two on the last part of the reunion. The argument's going on, but Teresa's telling Melissa that, let me talk to my brother. I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk. And Melissa's like, oh no, it's actually my husband you're talking to, since you're going to try to disown us, right? I just love that Melissa's standing up for herself. And then Teresa tells her, well, yeah, I want to talk to my brother for the last time. And then they're both like, really? Really? So this is the last time you're going to talk to us, huh? Andy's just in the middle right now, looking so frustrated. And who knows like how long this argument actually was. Maybe it's edited down. Teresa, they did not drag you through the mud for 10 years. If anything, y'all were dragging each other through the mud for the last 10 years. Now, I also want to comment on a lot of people saying that Melissa should just butt out the argument between Joe and Teresa. And I think that's bullshit, because a lot of what they're arguing about is in reference to Melissa, like at least more than half of the time. When she's referring to Melissa as your wife is doing this to me, then of course I expect Melissa to speak up. Now, Louie is butting out because he just joined the picture. This ain't got nothing to do with him. That's why he's quiet. So yeah, just as Teresa keeps interjecting, Melissa has that same right. So thankfully, Andy switches gears and gets back to the other husbands and just more fluff questions. And then we get to Frank, and look, a lot of things that need to be explained after what Dolores said in the last part. So the first question to Frank is his relationship to Dolores, and he's saying the viewers kind of have it wrong. Like, the relationship between the two of them is not sexual in any way. It's basically just a friendship with a family aspect, and Dolores is one of his best friends. Now, while I get that, Frank, there's still a thing called boundaries. And look, it looks like they have a good relationship now after the show. I'm glad at least one family isn't like torn apart. Now the next question he gets is about living with the dead doctor that dated Dolores. Now say that 3 times fast. The dead doctor that dated Dolores. The dead doctor that dated Dolores. But Frank says yes, he's still living with him. He's asked does he pay rent, and he says he doesn't. He takes care of other things. But, however, he tells Andy that him and his current girlfriend, Brittany, they close on a house together. Frank does talk about the possibility of marrying Brittany, and I'm like, he needs to go for that. That is his end to being on the cast full time. Like, make her a housewife, then you won't even need Dolores to be on the show. Andy then asks him his relationship with Paulie today, and they both say that they're in a good place with each other. So next up, Bill is in the hot seat with the questions, and it just seems like he's trying to save face and answer the questions just so him and his wife can put up a front that they're both not miserable. They then move on to Dolores' boyfriend and ask him about marrying Dolores, and you know, she told us in the last episode that he's still legally married. And look, the red flags are coming up right now for me. Not only is he technically legally married, but he hasn't been married for 14 years. So at no point in 14 years you decide to get divorced legally from your wife. Like, I don't know. Now I'm nervous, Dolores. And now all of a sudden Dolores isn't in a rush to get married. Like, what's going on? Did y'all question that too? Because it seemed like Dolores was on the fast track. We finally get a messy question. Andy asks Frank what happened to Frankie Jr. working for Louie. And Louie's on the other side just looking all smug and shit like that. And Frank, he doesn't want to say anything. He's just saying that, oh well, Frank used to work for Louie and now he doesn't anymore. Joe tries to, get him to say why. And then we see unseen footage, how they were talking about how Louie's company shut down. He didn't even let Frankie Jr. know about it. But here comes Dolores out of nowhere and she wants to shut this shit down. She's like, do not include my son in y'all cesspool bullshit. Now, she didn't say it like that, but that's how she meant it. But here go Louie trying to antagonize Joe, and he's like, oh yeah, tell me what happened then, Joe. And then Joe starts talking. He says he's known Frankie Jr. since he was born, and he told me some things about what happened. Here go Dolores again. She's like, Joe Gorga? Melissa. She's basically like, do not use my son as collateral in y'all's beef right now. Now, I can see that viewpoint, but I'm still a little disappointed in Dolores for not really speaking up to it, because it sounded like Louie did screw Frankie Jr. out of a job, but she's just sweeping it under the rug because she don't want no smoke with Louie or Teresa. Andy asks Dolores why she's so upset, and she says she just doesn't want to discuss Frankie Jr. She then turns around and thanks Louie for hiring Frankie. I don't know, I don't like this mafia style of hiding the truth, because clearly something happened and they just don't want to talk about it. Yeah, the whole stage just gets quiet on that matter. It's pretty awkward for Andy because he's like, well, okay, that begs more questions. So then Rachel's husband has a question for Louie since Frank don't want to play ball. He asks him, why'd you have me investigated? So it looks like Louie had Dietl, and y'all need to take a shot every time they say Dietl on this episode. But it looks like Louie allegedly had people contact the mother of his child in prison, and he's like, he didn't do it, and he's like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. He takes out this big manila folder of proof. He's like, eye for an eye, okay? You did it. And Louie's just lying through his teeth. Like, I believe Rachel's husband, definitely. Louie says Bo Dietl is his good friend, yet he did not hire him to investigate the cast. Even though he said on the season finale that, oh, Bo Dietl knows about everybody in this room. And not Teresa going, do you have proof? Do you have proof? When he just said he had evidence. And there you have it, Rachel's husband, who I really need to find out his name because right now he's just gonna be Rachel's husband. I think his name is Joe, but we already got 3 Joes. So if it is, it's Rachel's husband. But then he tells Louie that you can't just contact people in prison. Like there's a number and he followed that number and it was to Bo Dietl's people. And what are the odds that somebody on the cast is best friends with Bo Dietl? And Louie's just still lying. Like, I think the right question to ask to Louie, Andy, is not if Bo Dietl works for him, but if Bo Dietl has ever relayed any information to him about the cast. All right, so here go more of Louie's lies. Andy asked him about his relationship with Bo Dietl. He was like, oh, it's just something I said out of anger at the party. Andy then reminds him that he said it again at Teresa's house when Jennifer and Dolores came over. Again, just keep lying. I can't even stand looking at Louie's face. What happened? What we did? You ratted yourself out. Oh, okay. His name is John, y'all. Okay. So John is calling Louie and Teresa out. He says, I seized the both of you. And then Teresa's like, really, John? The way Teresa addressed him, it just seemed like she was thinking, how dare they come against us? I mean, it's always refreshing to see like when new cast members go up against an OG that people are intimidated by, much in this case like Teresa. So now Louie's saying that he only said that because he was stressed out because he didn't want all this to happen between you two. There you go again. Like, Andy, call him out on his lies. Like, he's lying. So again, Louie and Teresa are going back and forth with Melissa and Joe. Margaret then chimes in, and then Andy's like, wait! He then tells Louie that production let him know that security's trying to get up there for them. And Louie says, oh, well, Bo Dietl hired security for us. Everyone's just like got the confused looks on their face and they're just like, okay, all right. He says that we've been getting death threats, Andy, last week. I'm with Melissa, like in the whole 12 years of this franchise, no one has had to have security come up there. I'm a little embarrassed for Teresa and Louie right now. Is this who y'all defending tree stumps? Really? Child, now they're saying Bo Dietl's doing what they're doing because someone in this room has been harassing them, like with stories. And look, Teresa blames Margaret, and Margaret's just like, really? Y'all intimidated by Margaret? Y'all are intimidated by what Margaret knows about y'all. That's what y'all are really scared of. So now Louie and Margaret going back and forth, and I'm kind of surprised Joe just sitting there, because I definitely would have said, stop talking to my fucking wife. Louie's then like, let's play. Really? Like, what 80s movie are you the villain of right now? He's saying allegedly Margaret be paying off bloggers, but I'm like, okay, who else be paying off bloggers? Big deal. Margaret says, well, you're under criminal investigation. So now you have the whole left side going against Louie right now, and he just keeps denying. The cast is asking the wrong question. He did not hire Bo Dietl. Bo Dietl is bringing him information because they're friends. Ask the question right. Like, he's technically not lying when he says he did not hire Bo Dietl. And oh my God, I am so tired already of saying Bo Dietl. Danielle, shut the fuck up. You really asked, what is a smear campaign? She just wants to be a part of the conversation. Girl, continue talking about Shake Shack. This reunion has just gone off the rails. It's basically Louie against the whole left side. Joe is bringing up something like Rue La La, and then Louie's like, oh, well, don't you have $1 million in fines? Look, there's just so much stuff going on behind the scenes that's not out. Like, this just... They could do a whole nother reunion on the secrets of the cast. Child, so now Louie's making veiled threats to some of the cast. They're calling it out, but the other side, they're not saying nothing about Louie's bizarre behavior right now. I'm so disappointed in Dolores right now. Actually, everybody on the right side, because they know what they're saying about Louie is true. So now we get to Pizzagate and what happened between Louie and Joe. And I will say we're at the 30-minute mark of the reunion, and the rest of the reunion is solely about Teresa and Louie versus Joe and Melissa. They didn't even need the rest of the cast there. So first Louie gives his side of what happened, and then I think Melissa just interjected to ask him a question on it because she knows about the business affair. But then, Joe tries to stop her, like, let Louie finish, which she should. So then Teresa gets involved. You're not including. So now they're going back and forth again. And Teresa's like, well, I didn't know nothing about it. Teresa, you should start knowing, a lot about what your spouse does because that's how you landed in jail in the first place. So Melissa, knowing the business that Joe is doing, at least she knows what's going on. Andy's trying to maintain order and get back to Louie, but these two broads still going back and forth. You're embarrassing. Oh, you're embarrassing. Andy's like, you're both embarrassing. So Louie finally finishes his side of the story, and Joe disagrees with it. He says he was pissed because Louie stole the idea. So what I get from this whole ordeal is Joe went to Louie with an idea. Louie put up the money as an investor, as well as, I think Joe connected him with his nephew. So then it looks like Louie cut Joe out of it and didn't even ask him for any money. Therefore saying that, well, I put up this money, then, we're going to go forward with this idea. He put all of it in Teresa's name, and then Teresa took over it. And that's what I'm getting. So it looks like Joe is telling the truth. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think. So then Andy asked John Fuda his opinion on the matter since he's a business person. And he does say that what should have happened was it had a legal document. And then Teresa's like, thank you, John. That's what I told him so he wouldn't screw the brother. So they're going back and forth. Teresa keeps interrupting John as he's trying to finish. Andy, he's over. He's like, let him talk! Let him talk! Wow, Andy, why are you screaming at the talent like that? Very unprofessional. He was not like this back in the day. I mean, I get it. He said in an interview that imagine being there 14, 16 hours dealing with that. And I'm like, well, you chose it. This is your profession. That's what they pay you the big bucks for. Child, so now we get to the Dina Manzo thing. And of course, they're not going to tell the truth on that. They don't even want to talk about it. Saying Dina's name is taboo on this show. And that's the thing. I think this is why I didn't really care for this part of the reunion because it was just nothing but lies, but people didn't want to say what really happened. So then concerning all these events that happen off camera, we just have more questions, yet you have people feuding about it on the show. Oh, more back and forth, y'all, between the two couples, and Louie making threats again to Joe this time. You're going to regret it. You're going to regret it someday. And then Louie's getting redder and redder. So somehow we're able to move on, and Andy asked Joe about the allegations Teresa said earlier about he and his wife are the reason that she went to jail along with her ex-husband. So then Frank speaks up because he was Joe's attorney at the time, which I always forget that Frank used to be a lawyer. Not a smart lawyer, but he was a lawyer nonetheless. And he was just saying that the FBI contacted him about Joe Giudice, and he can confirm that he didn't say anything. But Teresa keeps interjecting, saying that well, you were dealing with his friends. At the end of the day, y'all broke the law. You cannot fool the FBI, especially when you're in the state of New York or New Jersey. But here goes Teresa doing what she does best when she's presented with evidence and facts. She starts to deflect. And now she starts talking to Joe in Italian, saying that he broke her heart. And he said, you broke my heart too. Melissa said, you broke the family. But again, it is turned into he said, she said. It's a back and forth. We don't know what's the truth. And Andy isn't really doing any good moderating. Teresa then has the gall to say that Jacqueline Larita has no reason to lie. Andy's like, come on, Teresa. He then tells her that is the joke of the century. Which it is. He then says, roll the footage, and here go production showing us a montage of all the times, well, some of the times, that she spoke negatively about Jacqueline. And then Andy says, we could do a 20-minute montage of that. Teresa looks stupid. Again, I don't believe a word that's coming out of her mouth, and I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't understand how someone is a fan of this woman. Teresa continues this deflection saying, this is disgraceful. I've been through this 10 years. And then Joe is like, what are you talking about? You could have chosen an average guy that didn't have all these videos. When he said that, Teresa really got angry. She's like, how you bring up the videos? You don't have a pass, Joe? You don't have a pass? She starts getting up now because Joe didn't hit a nerve. It looked like they had a pact between each other and they agreed not to bring up Louie's videos, so Teresa's really irritated. Teresa's standing up now, getting in Joe's face, saying, you want to talk about your past? You want to talk about your past? And, you know, allegedly, I'm sure y'all heard about what happened in Joe's background, but Teresa don't say it. And I feel like if she had that type of information, wouldn't she use it? Or is it just too damning and it would destroy his life and she don't want to like hurt his kids or something like that? I don't know. I feel like Teresa's so underhanded that if she had information, like she would use it. Especially after thinking her own brother and sister-in-law put her in jail. They finally get Teresa to sit down, but she's still talking like an idiot. She's like, thank you, Margaret. You ruined the family. Andy's like, oh, so now she ruined the family. Okay. They need to just release everybody else and just have these four on stage. Order is restored, and now Joe is asked, does he regret not going to the wedding? He says he doesn't regret it because already the Pizzagate thing happened. And then, you know, they came to him about the rumor about Melissa cheating on him. And then that's when we get to that. So now Louie's explaining the information, like when he heard it. What made it foul was they went to Joe behind Melissa's back and it just felt like an agenda. Like if they didn't believe the rumor, they could have just sat both of them down saying, oh look, this is what's going on about y'all. Like this is the rumor. And of course, Louie doesn't have an explanation of why he just went to Joe. He's like, oh, I don't know, I just went to Joe. I'm sorry. And they're not gonna tell the truth, so them talking about it is just pointless. So then Andy asked Teresa, did you tell Joe that he could do better than Melissa? And she said she didn't. And Joe confirms that she didn't. He said he heard that from Gia. Like Gia talked to him on the phone and said that. So then Teresa, she doubles down and says, okay, well, let me call Gia. As if Gia ain't gonna lie for your lying ass. But anyway, she has Gia on speaker. She hands the phone to Andy. Andy asks her the question and Gia says, no, I did not tell my uncle that. Melissa's like, why would he lie about that? Lie on his own niece? Really? Again, I do not care for the Gorgas like that, but for him to just lie on a child, like his own niece, like someone that he loves, I think that's his goddaughter. Please, let me know in the chat, do you believe Gia? Because I don't. But now on the other side of the couch, you have Teresa upset now. She gets up because Joe is lying on her daughter. She rushes off the stage. She's like, well, don't come following me. The only words Teresa has in her vocabulary is disgusting and disgraceful. That's it. And don't worry, Teresa, they didn't follow you because they no longer give a shit. And I love to see it, especially from Melissa. The camera's following Teresa now. And she's like, I can't believe it. He's lying on my daughter? Lord, we're back on stage. Danielle, shut the fuck up. You do not know what goes on between that family. Please mind your own business and that fake story about your brother. I still can't figure out why Danielle is riding for somebody that just set her dumb ass up. Teresa's still backstage with her crocodile tears talking to Gia, saying that she's done with Joe, she never wants to see him again. So then Andy finally gets up to try to get this lying clown back on stage. So now he's talking to Louie and Teresa, and she's saying, Andy, she did not say that to him. And then Louie's like, well, maybe she said, like, don't do this. Like, you can do better than this, than come to the wedding. Andy's just like, oh, yeah. Andy, say what's on your mind. I'm guessing Andy just has to remain a neutral party because they're both lying through their fucking teeth. So he gets him to come back on stage, but it looks like he's just gonna end the conversation. Like this segment's gonna be over. He's gonna bring the husbands back and then do the final, goodbye, and that's gonna be it. So looks like we're not gonna find out any new information. And by this point, I was just a little frustrated because all it was just arguing back and forth. He said, she said. We didn't get no resolution of any type. We then see Andy apologize to Teresa for yelling at her, but it happened, you did it, and y'all didn't edit it out, so how sorry can you be? So they're all back on stage, and Andy decides to end the segment because there's no point in going any further. So he asks Teresa and Joe, do they have any final words? It's silent. And then Joe says, do you have anything to say, Teresa? Teresa's like, I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. Joe then says, you know what? And he says calmly too, I will never say never. You are my only sister. I love you, but I'm upset with you. I'm angry with you, but look, if you were in a car accident tomorrow, I would be there. If you were sick, I would be there. But she interrupts him and says, no. Like my father said, honor me while I'm alive. Honor me. No, Teresa, you want someone to kiss your ass. You don't want to be held accountable. You want things to go your way. And you want somebody to honor you. If I was you, I would have said, fuck you. But, you know, he still has a heart. This is just sad. Like, part 3 was dark. Especially this part. Forget about me, and I'll forget about you. And it was just so final at that point. And then the silence too. Well, it definitely gets awkward because then Frank interjects saying, just let us know you're not going to investigate us anymore. They handshake on it. Louie goes over there. And then Louie gets up to Joe Gorgon, shake his hand goodbye. So Andy then dismisses the husbands. But then Louie tries to go over to Rachel and John. He goes to creep out. Rachel's like, I just want to let you know, like, you're a really good mother. You're a really good mother. And then he tries to like do that little makeup shit with John, and I loved it. I think this was my favorite part when he was like, you trying to be my friend? Admit what you did. Admit what you did, because it's bullshit. You know what you did. So then Joe comes out, gets between them, and brings John to the back. Because it looked like John was going to knock Louie out. I gotta say, I'm impressed with John and how he did with the reunion. And also, that was kind of hot. So after the commercial break, it's just the ladies on stage, and Andy's asking for final thoughts. Dolores is saying that this is final between the two families, like they just need to be apart. There was no resolution today. It looks like Rachel and Danielle, they're in a better place now. They say they're gonna lay that ridiculous beef they had to the side. I don't really give a shit what Jennifer has to say because she flopped this reunion really bad. We get to Margaret and she's all kumbaya and mellow, saying, I really don't have hate for Jennifer. Well, it didn't look like it this season. I mean, y'all were going at it. Like the way you called her a stupid bitch. Yeah. So we get to Teresa. You know, she's like, I want peace. I just want peace. And Andy comments that they actually coexisted this season, even though they actually hated each other. But Teresa said it was because she was getting married. So now there's no reason for her to pretend. Melissa then tells Andy that you can see the hate that she has for me. Clearly anything I've done was not enough to please her. She then tells Teresa that she loves her no matter what you think, and I actually worry about you. Now, Melissa, like I've been rocking with you for all 3 parts, but I think this is the only thing that I have a tough time believing. And then she says she's just gonna go with the flow, which translates to me as if her and her brother do make up, she's just gonna go along to get along. So then after that, Andy gives his final thoughts. Production comes out with Irish whiskey shots and pizza for the cast. They toast to a great season, and that is where the episode ends, y'all. It sucks because part 1 and 2 were so good. And part 3, like I was hoping it was going to give us the climax that we wanted, but it really fell flat because it just wasn't enjoyable. It was dark. We didn't get any type of resolution. It was just a back and forth between the two couples for at least 45 minutes. So yeah, I didn't enjoy like the last part, but overall, it was a good reunion. I would give it a B+. As far as on the cast, like I feel like they're gonna bring all of them back because the ratings, I mean, they got a season's high on the last episode, almost 1.3 million on Wednesday, not even including like digital, DVR, and Peacock. I think the 2 new girls did a good job with their first reunion. Jen Fessler definitely should be upgraded next season. Jennifer, this was a flop for you. I don't know what happened. She did give an explanation on Twitter, but yeah, Jennifer could go, honestly. Dolores, I was a little disappointed with her. I wanted her to actually hold Teresa accountable, like speak your mind, but she's still like hypnotized in that Teresa Mafia mentality. Margaret, y'all know I like Margaret. I don't know why y'all dislike Margaret. Teresa, dumbass. She's delusional. Most overrated housewife of all time. I really can't wait to see her karma by being aligned with Louie. And then last but not least, Melissa. You did that. You did that. You was in rare form. And she's delivered her best reunion performance in her history of the show. And y'all cannot deny that. This is the end of a franchise. And I believe the next one coming up, y'all, is the new New York City Housewives. For some reason, that comes on Sunday nights after Atlanta. I'm not doing OC, but I am watching. I just don't want to review it. I just want to enjoy the show and see if I like it, and if I do, maybe I'll review it next year. But with that, y'all, let me know what y'all thought about part 3, as well as the reunion as a whole. Should the entire cast come back? And most importantly, should Melissa and Teresa come back, or one or the other? Let me know. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all for the next franchise. Bye.